So hello, everyone, and welcome. My name is Rachel Melito, and I'm the Marketing Coordinator for Executive Education at the Yale School of Management. We hope that you're doing well, and we appreciate you taking the time to join us for this Introduction to Yale CPWA prep course, Wealth Management Theory and Practice. This is one of two online financial certification programs we offer. It's modeled after our successful SEMA online program, Investment Management Theory and Practice. Our program director, Jim Dobbs, was instrumental in creating both programs, so he really knows them inside and out. Please engage with us during this webinar and don't hesitate to ask questions. Jim is very knowledgeable, and this is your opportunity to pick his brain. We may hold questions, but we will do our best to answer all of them. To ask questions, please use the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen, and please use the chat function for any technical issues. Now to introduce our program director. Jim Dobbs is CPWA certified. He is also CFP and SEMA certified. He was a financial advisor for 25 years and ran his own RIA practice before retiring from it to work full-time in his financial education company. Jim has worked with different certifying bodies and universities for the last 20 years, helping build and manage financial certification programs. More importantly, though, Jim has had extensive experience with the Investments and Wealth Institute. He personally helped create the CPWA certification and has served IWI in many roles, including as chair of IWI's Technical Advisory Board. Jim directed and taught in the classroom version of the CPWA course for many years and has now partnered with us to bring his expertise and enthusiasm to Yale and in turn to you. You will see he is passionate about what he does. He is committed to success, and he measures his success based on yours. Please welcome Jim Dobbs.
Well, thank you, Rachel. Can you hear and see me okay?
Yep, all good.
Okay, great. Well, welcome everybody. So just right off the bat, just in case anybody's in the wrong place, I doubt anybody is, but this, as Rachel said, this is part of the CPWA certification process. Our program is. So Certified Private Wealth Advisor. Think of this as financial planning in great detail in the topics, the challenges, strategy solutions for your high net worth clients. When I say high net worth, I'm just going to say families worth, not AUM or investable accounts, but let's just say net worth of at least $5 million. Not to get too precise about that number. I think a lot of this material helps you with your $1 and $2 million clients, and certainly with your 50 million as well. But yeah, from the 5 million to 50 million, that's how we created this program. That being said, we're going to take a pretty deep dive in tax. And so I know that most of you are not tax specialists. Now, every year we have tax specialists and CPAs come through this program as well, but most of you will not be. And so we don't need to get you to that level of a tax specialist. We do want you to be more than just conversational. We want you to be able to spot issues, bring up potential solutions, do a lot of prep work with your clients before you take them or go with them to their CPA. So that's kind of what we strive to do in this program from a practical sense. That being said, it's U.S. tax code only. So if you're outside of the U.S. or you do not work with U.S. clients or clients who are subject to the U.S. tax code, then this will not be an appropriate program for you, because you're going to spend at least dozens of hours. Some of you may have to spend hundreds of hours, but at least dozens of hours studying the U.S. tax code as it pertains to your high net worth clients. So, you know, if you're in Canada and you don't have any clients subject to the U.S. tax code, or you're in Europe or Asia or whatever, it's just not going to be worth your time. So I want to get that out there up front. Okay, so a point of distinction. We're going to go about an hour, give or take. See what kind of questions you've got. Everything's fair game here about the certification, about this department at Yale, SOM, executive education, IWI, the certifying body, all of that's fair game. Our program, what it takes to succeed, all of that good stuff. So go ahead and type those questions in. Rachel will stop me a few times along the way. And then hopefully we'll have a few minutes at the end to do kind of a free-for-all question and answer as well. But that being said, the point of distinction is at Yale, we provide a registered education CPWA course, has to be approved by your certifying body, IWI, and it is obviously. And we include test prep as part of our package, our program. So the one fee you pay if you choose Yale versus some other options you have is that one fee, and we'll talk about fees and all that good stuff in a minute. It's all included. So if you choose Yale, it's not really the only reason you should choose Yale, but it's pretty simple. You just pay one fee. Everything is there. And we'll talk about goals and getting through the exam in just a little bit. But IWI is your certifying body, Investments in Wealth Institute. And so if you haven't been to their website, you see the link there. Some of you probably have already typed in on your other screen and or going to that website. Spend some time there. They are your certifying body. You're going to apply for candidacy through them. You're going to pay your dues through them. You're even going to pay the Yale fees if you choose Yale through them. Once you get certified, you're going to take the test that they create and manage and score. You're going to, just like I do, you're going to pay your ongoing fees to them and submit your CE to them as well. So check them out. I got involved, I guess, about 20 years ago now. And it's just, they always had deeper content, richer content, more technical content than some of the other organizations and certifications. That's kind of what drew me in to the organization, but they got some pretty cool stuff that you'll want to check out if you haven't already. Okay, so just a quick differentiation between some of the more popular recognizable certifications out there. CFP, very strong, very recognizable. I hold a number. I just actually put CFP, SEMA, and CPWA out there on my bio, just because they're the most elite of the ones that I do hold. But CFP is more broad-based, right? So it's anything and everything financial planning. And that includes for us working with clients that have no money, right? They're just digging themselves out of debt, or they're very, very young and just getting started and they don't have any money, and you're going to help them get started, say in their 20s, right after college or whatever. So it's really for everybody, you serving everybody. Most of the programs, now there are hundreds of them out there, but most of them are what I'd call just fundamental. They're going to cover the basics that they have to, according to CFP board. There is a curriculum sheet that they are supposed to follow. And that's pretty much it. And so if you need the deeper dive in investments, if you need the deeper dive in tax and estate planning, family legacy, that kind of thing, you're not going to get it. And that's why CPWA was created. All of us on the committee were CFPs or are CFPs 15, 20 years ago when we created this certification. And the thought was, well, CFP is great, and we had a good experience in our education and test prep providers, but nobody really helped. Now we're senior advisors, planners, wealth managers. Our clients are worth 5, 10, 50, $100 million. Where's my education and training if my client's worth 25 million, but 20 million is wrapped up in their closely held business that they're going to sell in the next 5 or 10 years? Okay, well, we didn't get any training for that in CFP land when we went through those courses. What if my clients were $12 million, but $8 million is wrapped up in company stock for which he or she has options to, or eventually exercises the options, qualified or non-qualified. And then that becomes a large concentrated stock position. Well, there's some tax to that. Obviously, there's risk analysis that needs to go along with that. There's some psychology that goes with that. And some administrative and legal issues as well. So we just didn't see that there was a lot of training for that in most of the CFP programs. So we tested the market. Clearly, there was a need for those of us that were dealing with high net worth clients. So we created CPWA. So that's the difference really between CFP and CPWA. I've highlighted for you, you see 18 months versus 6 months. That should not make you think that CPWA is any easier in terms of testing. I would argue the word for word, question for question, I think CPWA exam is at least a little harder than CFP because it's more technical. It takes a deeper dive. There just aren't that many yes, no kind of questions. I've got to think through 2 or 3 or 4 things to get to my solution. And even then, that only lets me get it down to 2 options, and I've really got to know what they're asking to tease out which is the better answer choice. So it's that kind of test, which I think there are some questions like that on the CFP certification exam, but not as many as a percentage. Now, why does it take 18 months versus 6 months? You might think, well, CPWAs either hold the CFP, which half of them do, or they've got a lot of experience, and so they're farther along ahead when they get into their studies. Both of those are true, but I would submit this is the biggest reason. There's just a lot more material in the CFP curriculum than there is in CPWA. With CPWA, we're just trying to drill deep, be highly technical on issues and solutions for your high net worths. And CFP, they're covering everything. So that's why it takes much less long time for most candidates to earn CPWA. CIMA, CFA, those are 2 of the bigger investment certifications, better known investment certifications out there. CFA is a super deep dive, very technical, very quantitative. I think if you want to become a institutional portfolio manager or securities analyst, CFA is clearly the way to go. These other 3 won't hurt you, but you should get into CFA right away because that one takes more like 4 years, because almost everybody fails at least one of those 3 exams at least once. CIMA is really for client-facing advisors, financial planners, financial advisors, investment advisors, and it's fine if you're a wholesaler or salesperson as well. CIMA is a nice program for salespeople as well. But CIMA is just investments, and as you can see here with CPWA, investments is just one sleeve of the overall curriculum, just like in CFP. Investments is just one sleeve. All right, there are some prerequisites that are set forth by your certifying body, not us at Yale, but IWI. Got to have a bachelor's degree, or if you don't have a bachelor's degree, you've got to have one of these certifications. Now, technically, CPA is not a certification, it's a license. And I think you even have to have a bachelor's degree to have that, but whatever. So if you have one of these others, that could serve in lieu of your bachelor's degree. You have to pass a background check. I don't think we would probably offer these certifications at Yale if they didn't require that. There's a lot of bad people. We'll just call them bad actors in our business. And I think designations and certifications, the higher level ones, can help alleviate some of that. Obviously, strict regulation is the best reinforcement for that. But passing a background check and staying clean in your career is going to be required to maintain your CPWA certification. 5 years experience in the business. And that doesn't mean wealth management, doesn't even mean financial planning. It's really financial services, according to IWI. So it could all be, you could have 5 years in just insurance, or 5 years in just investments, 5 years just in a trust department, 5 years in a family office, 5 years in a bank, most likely, depending on what you did in the bank. But if it's in financial services, they're probably going to accept it. And 5 years is the magic number for them. That being said, you can begin the certification process before you hit the 5-year mark. It's simply a requirement to get certified, just like taking and passing one of these approved courses like you're considering here at Yale. Taking and passing the certification exam, which we'll talk a bit more about in a little bit. Passing the background check, again, just a requirement in 5 years. So we do have a handful of people in our program now. I think there are about 450, 500 candidates in our program currently. And at least a handful, at least half a dozen. It may be more like a full dozen. It's not a big percentage, but we do have people that they're just working through the process and they're like, well, you know, when I finish with Yale and the certification exam, I'm still going to need 6 more months experience. Well, that's fine. You just can't call yourself a CPWA certificate until you hit the 5 years, because that will be the last of the requirements you need to meet. So you can do this. You can start the process before you hit 5 years. If you're really new to the business and you're ambitious, that's great. Awesome. I love that. I was too. But this may be too big of an apple to bite at for some of you. If you don't have certain skills and you don't have some experience in the business, for any of you on that, bubble, if you will, go ahead and you'll see my email a couple of times. Go ahead and send me an email. Maybe we can just have a quick phone call. I definitely want to make sure this is the right certification and the right time for you. The money's one thing, but it's going to take you a lot of time, and there's opportunity cost here. So I just want to make sure you're looking at the right program at the right time. Okay. So here's a quick view of the honeycomb that IWI came up with a few years ago. And it's got all the kind of the core topics in it. There's a longer, more detailed version, color-coded with exam weightings. You can get that on our website. It's kind of buried. Same thing on IWI's. Or just shoot me an email to either of these two emails, and I'll be happy to get you the longer, fuller color-coded version with the topic weightings and the candidate handbook as well, because both those documents have some really important information. In terms of the topics, you want to look through all of these, and as you look through just the simple top line content areas that I have for you here, you can go, okay, well, this kind of all makes sense. Yeah, tax strategies for the high net worth, obviously, portfolio management, risk management, asset protection, working with the closely held business owners, executives. It's more like retirement management or retirement distribution as opposed to retirement accumulation. We do a little bit of retirement accumulation. That's actually a good example of where that's more of a CFP thing, I think, because when you're dealing with the high net worths, they're either easily going to be able to get to a minimum level of capital needs to retire, or they're already there. So it's more about distribution, tax optimization or minimization, if you will, and then transferring those assets down to the next generation, which can be tricky with the changing tax law that we've had in the last 10 or 15 years. Obviously, charitable in the state's going to be a pretty big chunk of this program as well. And again, another differentiator between this and CFP. In CFP land, I think I only had one course in estate planning, and they tied that together with charitable planning as well. And we learned the basics of trust, revocable, irrevocable, and all that fun stuff. But here in CPWA, we're going to go like through 22 or 23 different types of trusts, specifics of those trusts, structure, legality, asset protection, certainly tax, when those trusts would work in certain situations, when they probably are not going to be as attractive. And then we'll even talk a little bit about the hassle factor in having those trusts. So it's just a different level of a dive than you would see in most of your CFP programs. That being said, one caveat. On a CFP program, if you take a master's level degree program, it's 2 years, and you have 3 investment courses as part of that curriculum and 2 estate planning, including an advanced. If you're in that kind of CFP program, you probably are going to see most of what we are going to show you in the CPWA curriculum. But that's an exception to the rule. Very few programs out there that are CFP registered are like that. Okay, so again, I think what you want to do is go through the longer version of this, that 4 or 5 pager that I told you about. And what you want to do is ask yourself, if you're not sure, if you're not 95% sure that CPWA is for you right now, I think you want to go through the line items. And there are about 500 what I would call topics or main subtopics. Then easily it's over 1,000 with subtopics. Just want to go through the main topics. Probably take you 10, 15 minutes to go through every single one of them. And just keep asking yourself, is knowing more about this, is knowing more about this, is knowing more about this going to help me in my practice now? Is it going to help me serve my clients better? Is it going to help me attract and bring in more clients? Is it going to raise my level of confidence so I can work with the attorneys out there and the high-end tax specialists that my clients tend to have as well. And by the time you get through all 500 of those items, you should have a pretty good intuition at this point about, yeah, most of that was right there. And that I would really, really benefit if I knew a lot more about most of these things, as opposed to, well, maybe a third of it is interesting or will help me. I think if it's less than half, then I would say probably not, because it's just, if you're going to spend 100, 200 hours doing this, yeah, probably not. So yeah, spend some time. I think that'll be 10 minutes well spent. All right, I'll let you look on our website and IWI's website for all the benefits to doing this, the value proposition and all that. But suffice to say, for me anyway, this is a cool one-pager that IWI put out a year or two ago. And I like it because it does kind of hit some of the high points that I experienced as an advisor when I was going through these certifications. And then now that I've dealt with thousands of CPWA candidates through the years, where do I see the biggest benefit or value for them? Well, higher compensation, number 2 there, is a real thing. So if that will help you sell this to your boss or your manager to either allow you to do it or even to reimburse you or pay for it, you can go to the IWI's website. They've got some cool third-party research from IT Group, Cerulli, and it seems like there's one more that I always forget, where they actually compare compensation, income, not like activity or production, to for CPWAs versus CFPs versus those who don't hold either. And you'll see clearly that CPWAs earn more than CFPs, and those who have CFPs earn more than those who don't have either. Now, you could get into the chicken and the egg argument on that, but I think there can be some nice third-party material if you need it to convince somebody at work. Certainly, you're going to differentiate yourself from others. The mere fact that you will spend dozens of hours learning more about our very, very complex tax code here in the US, that's going to separate you alone, because a lot of advisors, financial planners, even wealth managers just don't want to do that. Oh, I rely on somebody else. It's fine to rely on somebody else for the highly technical and pulling the trigger on a decision or recommendation. But when I was a wealth manager for 27 years, had my own practice and business for 20 of those years, I had to talk about tax all the time to my high net worths. And one of the best things we could do is talk about the issues before we went to the CPA, because they're pretty expensive, of course. And then when we go to the CPA or the family meeting at the end of the year with the attorneys too, we would almost always go back and debrief. And that was one of the best values I could add, because they were either embarrassed or in a rush, or we didn't have time, so they could ask more detailed questions about, well, what's a slat? What's a grat? Why would that be a good thing to do, with this particular stock that I own? So you got to be able to know that stuff and be confident in your skills and your knowledge to be able to at least add some value in that meeting. But I would argue, just as importantly, be able to go back to them afterwards and debrief with them in a more casual, relaxed setting. Because if you're like me, not all, but most attorneys and tax CPAs, they use a lot of jargon, things that we've learned not to do. They can be kind of stuffy, and they can be kind of arrogant, and it's not always pleasant for the client. So I think you can add a lot of value there. You're certainly going to raise your confidence as you build up all this new knowledge and skills. I'll show you the faculty team in terms of expert instruction. I'm just happy to be on the team, to be honest with you. There's some real stars we have. The content is very applicable. I'll talk about that in just a little bit as well. Actually, I'm going to talk about it now. And then after I do this, Rachel, we'll stop and see if we've got any early questions. So yeah, I think when you're going to any kind of program that's going to take a decent amount of your time and or money, I think you want to know what the primary objectives are of the institution that you're going to be going to. In this case, it's Yale School of Management. And here are, well, we have about 30 things 30 or something things we track, but here are 3 of the most important objectives. One is, remember that 500 topic list plus, another 500 plus as the subtopics. We want to cover all of it. Now, we're not going to cover all of it at the same level of depth or the same level of practical skill, because sometimes it's just, yeah, that's highly tested, but we don't see that very much in practice. So we're just going to kind of stick to test prep for that subtopic, and the vice versa. They don't test on it much, but it's really important in practice. We on the faculty team think as practitioners, those of us that are in or were in practice. So we're going to treat it more like, hey, this is just good for your practice. Don't worry about it on the test. So cover all the topics, which I'm proud to say I think we do a very admirable job of doing. That being said, the middle one's the most impactful. So it's the most important to me. It's also the hardest to measure, admittedly, but it's to help you guys really develop knowledge, skills, tools, resources that you can use in your practice right now. Like, you don't have to wait till you get certified. It's like you can have that conversation next week, because now in this particular area, you feel a lot more confident and you've got some knowledge, you've got some skills to work with. So the practical aspect of all of this, to me, is clearly the most important. When I see you guys at conferences and out there at live events and whatever throughout the year, that's what's the most interesting. And when I hear you, and now 10, 15 years later, say, yeah, it's great, I got my CPWA, great to have that certification, went through Yale, very, very great, great association to have for the rest of my life. But wow, what a difference changer this was in my practice. That's the most exciting to hear. So that's really at the core of what we're trying to do here. But last and not least, I was in your seat once upon a time ago as well, studying for all these exams. As you get closer to your planned exam date, it's really up to you. I'll talk about that flexibility of scheduling in a minute. It's going to be all about the exam if you're like me at some point. I mean, you start out altruistic and you're gathering all the practical advice you can get as well and making your notes. One of the things you'll see in our program is we recommend you have a notebook, and maybe even 2 notebooks, but at least one of those notebooks should be for practical application. So every time you get into a new challenge, a tax code, tax challenge, strategy, solution, whatever, you're going to write down clients or even prospects, if you ever got that deep with them, that this would apply to. And then how can you do something or do something different with the new knowledge you have? But as you get closer to test date, it's like, okay, Jim, I am 2 weeks out, I'm 2 months out, I'm 1 month out. Just tell me what you think I will and won't have to know on the exam. We'll talk about that in a little bit. So again, we're going to start out big and more practice-based, and then we're going to work down to the very micro details of how we think they will test you. All right, I'll stop there. And Rachel, let's see if we've got any early questions.
No, Jim, we don't have any questions yet.
All right, we'll just keep powering through. But if you got questions, go ahead and send them on in. And so study time expectations is a big deal, and it's a commonly asked question. And I imagine if I didn't hit this here, somebody would ask me at some point. I've mentioned the range of 100 to 200 hours a little bit earlier, and I think that is a good range. Now, that's a pretty big range, I get it. But as you can imagine, with the prereqs that IWI has for people getting into this certification education program, yeah, you could have people all over the place. And with now thousands that we've had come through, we do. So we've got people that are 25 years in the business, dealing with high net worths, most of those 25 years, and they've seen and done a whole lot. Now, maybe they need to brush up on their technical skills, including specific tax code application and that kind of thing. But yeah, they can breeze through in a month, and they do. Now, that still takes a good candidate, a good participant, a good studier, a good test taker to do that. But yeah, we have that every year where people are going to just knock this out in about a month. Clearly under 100 hours spent total time from like day one of logging in and starting through the education course. And then after they finish the course, as I'll show you in just a minute, then you get into the test prep and get ready for and take and pass your exam. but 100 to 200 hours is probably a good ballpark for most of you. And if you're like not sure, then just call it 150 hours. And I say that because I think you do want to look on your calendar over the next 3 to 6 months, and make sure it's not a horrible time to start. We're asynchronous and we offer ongoing registration. We did that on purpose for a couple of reasons. One, so you can start when you want to start, when it works for you. Like if you're in a practice that's pretty heavy on tax compilation and tax returns, yeah, like January, February, probably not a good time to start, obviously, right? And maybe not even September if you're going for the October, and every year, there's a lot of, last filings for your clients. Other than that, I think it's like, okay, just look over the next 3 to 6 months. Does this look any worse than any other 3 to 6 month window for me? Okay, if it's not, then, go for it. And then once you've kind of cleared that hurdle, then you want to go, okay, I'm just going to assume I'm right in the middle. It's 150 hours from literally start logging the first time to taking and passing my certification exam. And so I want to do this in 4 months. I want to do this in 6 months. And you just break it up by week or however you want to do it, and divide that into 150. And then you figure out exactly what your schedule will be. We actually offer weekly study schedules, like if you want to fast track it, or if you think you're going to take 6 months or longer, and then somewhere in the middle. And we put those on the website. Now, you don't have to use those. I just wanted there to be, some kind of benchmarking, if you will, and some guide rails for those of you who felt like, okay, well, just guide me towards one of these, and then I'll just adjust and go faster or slower as it comes at me. Because look, all of you are going to be a little sharper and a little less sharp in some of these areas. Some of you are outstanding at asset protection, risk management, think insurance, that kind of thing, investments, maybe retirement. Some of you, though, are on the other side. You're great at tax. Some of you are great at estate and charitable because you work in a family office, perhaps, or you're in a family office or multifamily office. So everybody's got different strengths. And there's just no way to create a program, in my opinion, where you all go through kind of at the same time at the same pace. It just doesn't make any sense. You need to go at your own pace and study when you want to as well. So again, all this has to do with your experience and your study habits and all of that good stuff. But 150 is a pretty good guess. The only other caveat is you're 6 months into the business, 2 years into the business. All you've ever done is your Series 7 and other series exams. You haven't done CFP or anything like that. And you really don't work with a lot of high net worth clients. And you really never done any tax work, like at least be exposed to tax rules, regulations, and all of that. And let's just go ahead for kicks and lay on learning challenges on top of that. For that individual, easily that could take more than 500 hours because this is a really rich and deep curriculum, and some fundamental knowledge is expected when you walk in the door. That doesn't mean you shouldn't or can't do it if you come in and you don't have that foundation. It just means you need to expect to spend hundreds of hours, maybe more than 500, to get through all of this. And if you're willing to get through that curve in the year that you have to do this program, then go for it. But you just need to have realistic expectations. All right, let's talk nuts and bolts a little bit. About $7,300, give or take. That is the total fee for coming through if you choose the Yale program. The other programs are a little different. Well, they're very different in terms of delivery and having live courses that you need to go to, or having a more synchronous process. When I set up this was the very first online CPWA program available when we started at Yale. The whole idea was just let you guys move fast or slow. Just let you move the way you want to move. Just make sure that the other programs offer test prep. Well, they do, but you have to pay for it. So you want to add that up to do an apples to apples comparison in terms of our price. Because when you first look at things on the IWI website, you might think, oh, IWI is the most expensive. Well, you're going to need test prep. And so you would definitely want to add that to the cost so that you can do an apples to apples comparison. But again, as I said at the very beginning, that's the kind of thing I wouldn't choose Yale just because it's a little bit less expensive. It's all these other things that I would choose Yale for, not the price. All right, I mentioned ongoing registration. So you're just going to apply for candidacy through IWI whenever you're ready. Takes them about a week to do your application and run your background checks. They're going to pull your U4 if you're in the investments, if you're registered on the investment side at all. If you're in the trust business or simply on the insurance with no securities exams and registrations, there's some other things they can do, but that's how they're going to do it. Just make sure that your application, which asks a lot of the same questions that are on your U4, lines up with your U4. That's when I occasionally see somebody get into a little bit of trouble in terms of applying. It's like their application just did not match the U4. That's a problem. So make sure those match up. And then you have a year. I mentioned just a minute ago, at least I briefly mentioned it. Really should only take you 6 months. If it's 150, 160 hours, that's 40 hours over 4 months. That's 10 hours a week for 4 months of, continuous studying, adding that to your already busy schedule, I'm sure. So when we started this, we were like, okay, let's double that and give them 12 months of access to the Yale program, because that ought to be plenty of time. And that hasn't been a problem. Most candidates get through this before their time runs out. Now you can pay an extra couple thousand. I think it's $2,250 if I'm not mistaken. It's somewhere in there for an extra year of access. But here, let me give you the workaround on that. So you can do that. And we do have people every year that re-up for a second year because they just got busy or sidetracked or whatever. They didn't finish. And many of you guys have generous reimbursement policies at your firm that pay for programs like this. So yeah, I totally get it why they're like, well, it's not my money, so I'll just pay an extra couple of grand and get the extra year. But here's the workaround if that's not the case for you. Just finish the course in 12 months and then download all the test prep. Now you don't get to see the test prep, as I'll show you in a minute, until you pass the course. But you could literally in a scramble in a weekend or two pass the course. That's not what I recommend you do. I want you to spend a good solid 40 hours in the course, and I'll show you that in a second. But you could do that. Just scramble, pass the course, in a hurried weekend or two, and then just download all the test prep and study off your own hard drive. We allow you to do that. Just don't share it. Publish it with, obviously don't publish it. Don't share it with anybody because you're the participant. You paid for this. It's not for anybody else. It's just for you. That's where we would draw the line. As long as you don't do that, then you won't get in trouble. So that's the workaround if you don't get reimbursed and that $2,250 would have to come out of your pocket. All right, exam pass rate and market share. Pass rates, they no longer allow us to talk about our specific candidates on the exam. I wish they did. Let me repeat that. I wish they did. But you can go follow this link or just go into the IWI website and go to CPWA, go to exam, and scroll down near the bottom. You'll see the most recent pass rates nationally, not by school or program. Again, I wish they would do that, but yeah, we're very, very happy with our candidates' pass rates on this exam. If you put in the time and do what we ask you to do and don't take shortcuts, then you should have a really, really good shot at passing this exam on your first attempt. That doesn't mean it's easy. It is not. It's a challenging exam. But if you do what we ask and you put in the time, you should be fine. And yeah, we do have the largest market share. Most of the candidates do choose the Yale for their education and test prep. All right, I'm going to let you stare at this lady, seemingly very happy with her results on her exam, I guess. And Rachel, let's see if we've got any questions.
Yes, so there was a question regarding like resources for support during the program. What resources there may be to ask questions to when they're in the studying phase of the program.
Yeah, good question. I'm going to talk about that in a minute, but I'm going to give you a little teaser here. The discussion board is really, really good in this program, but I'm going to leave it there and I'll circle back in a couple of slides and talk a little bit more about that. Any other questions?
Nope, that was it.
Okay, so here you see the exam. Look, they are changing the exam every 4 to 5 years. They do that. All I would say legitimate certifications do. They got to update the topic list. They got to update the exam, keep it relevant, keep it up to date. Just all you got to do is think tax code in our country, and you know that CPWA's got to be updated. Heck, these days they could update this every other year with the changes that we've seen. I'm glad they don't do that though. But that is coming up, and probably about a year from now, give or take, there'll be a new exam. Now, most of the existing questions I would imagine will be on the new exam. They're just going to add some topics and that kind of thing. So if you start now and you get done within 12 months, that really shouldn't even be an issue for you. But if you're going to test later in 2025, yeah, there will be a new test. Now, the heads up I've been given without any details, leaving the gory details behind, there really aren't any gory details on this job task analysis and changes to the curriculum and exam. Just some minor tweaks here and there. They've reworded some things. I'm not that worried about it. Won't be that much work to change test prep and write some new questions and, you know, add some new readings and that kind of thing. So I don't think it's going to be that big a deal. And if you're going to test within the next 12 months, it won't be an issue at all. You'll be taking 135 question multiple choice exam. You'll have 4 hours, 125 are scored as you've been reading this as I've just rambled on here. 10 of them are kind of what I call beta items. They're not scored. They're just testing them out. All the certifications do this, and like every certification I've ever seen or done, you won't know what the 10 questions are. So you just treat them all 135 as if they're going to be scored. You can do this at home or at your office online, or you can go in testing centers. If you come into our program, as you'll see, we generally recommend you use a testing center. Pass rates are higher. I think there's a number of reasons, probably psychological as part of that. But also with these proctors online, there can be issues. It can take half an hour to an hour to get set up in terms of, you know, they got to scan your room. They got to look at what you've got open. You know, it's kind of a big deal. So if that makes you nervous at all, I would highly recommend, just like we all did for our securities exams. Well, for the most part, you just go on in to Pearson VUE is who they use these days for testing centers, and they're all over the country. So it shouldn't be a problem. Calculator policy, you do need one, not heavy in CFP land. I got to tell you, I use my financial calculator a lot more than I do in the CPWA curriculum. But there will be a handful of questions, like if you don't have a financial calculator, you could do it longhand, but that would be a horrible waste of time. You're just going to have to randomly guess at the answer. So I do want you to be comfortable with your financial calculator. Let me give you the list. Oops, I think I took that off. In the handbook, which I'll send you if you don't already have it, they do list all the financial calculators. Can't use a scientific calculator. It's only financial calculators, but there are like 12 or 15 that are allowed. If you don't have one or you need a refresher, go to tvmcalcs.com. TVM as in time value of money. TVMcalcs, that's CALCS.com. tvmcalcs.com. Free website. Professor out in Colorado's got that. It's great. Love it. I mean, there's a lot of them out there, but his is the best in my mind. And he'll even say on his homepage how to pick a calculator. Are you taking CFA? Are you taking CPWA? Are you taking any of these others? And the very first HP and the very first TI that he has listed on his homepage, those are both very popular in our program. Either one of those is going to be fine. Now I use an HP 12C, and that's on the list too. this is a little more complicated. If you're doing more complicated work, it'll get you there faster, but the learning curve is pretty bad on this one. So I wouldn't do the HP12C if you don't already have one, just because you're just going to have to spend a few more hours learning all these things. And that may be a waste of time. So anyway, go to his website with your calculator and go through the dozen or so really common calculations and exercises he's got. And he goes through step by step on your calculator how to get to the solution. I think that's important. It's not a high intellectual exercise, right? It's just about, do you know where the buttons are on your calculator? Because you don't want to waste time on a test that's timed. And do you know the order of the buttons you would need to press? We're not going to go through that because there are like 12 or 15 calculators that are available. And so we're not going to do that in the Yale program. We're going to assume you already know how to work your calculator. So go spend an hour or two max. That'll be time well spent if you need to.
Hey,
Oh,
Jim.
here you go. Yeah, Rachel.
Jim, there's just a quick question. What was that TVM Calcs website again? Oh, there it is.
I thought the calculator policy had disappeared, but no, here it is. So there you go, tvmcalcs.com. Yeah, great site. If you feel like you need a refresher, just go spend an hour, maybe two max. You'll be able to get through all of his dozen or so questions using your calculator. Very important. So you just kind of brush off the cobwebs if you need to. That way, for the 5 or 6 questions you're going to need it for on this exam, piece of cake, you got it down. Easy, should be relatively easy questions to get, in my opinion. I just don't want you fumbling around with your calculator, if at all possible. All right, any other questions, Rachel?
Yes. So is this pass fail? Do we get any other insight into our score after we take the test?
Yeah, good question. Like most certification exams, especially those that are accredited, and CPWA is one of only 3 or 4 in the financial services industry that is accredited. It's, again, one of the reasons that we offer CIMA and CPWA at Yale, because these are accredited. These are more elite type certifications. But with all of those, if you pass, they say, hey, Jim, congratulations, you passed. We'll send you paperwork and get the licensing process going and all that good stuff. That's all you get. It's kind of a bummer because it's kind of like, oh, yeah, well, I don't think I barely passed. I think I did pretty well. I'd like to see that number. Well, they're not going to give you that number. If you fail, however, they will give you some information, although I would argue it's fairly limited. In each of the major domains, the 5 domains they have, the major topic domains, they're going to tell you what your percentage score was, and they'll even show you how many questions were in that grouping, how many you got right. So you can then go back and figure out how close did you get. Now, they use modified NGOF, just like CFA Institute, just like CFP Board. So they're never going to fully tell you, you got to get a 70 to pass, or like securities exams, you know, you got to hit a certain number and then you're in. It doesn't work that way at this level of certification. It can move up and down depending on the questions you get. If you and I take the test on the same day, the questions you get may be just a little bit, it wouldn't be like significantly harder, but they could be a little bit harder than mine. So your passing score is going to be a little bit lower than mine because I got a little bit less difficult. So I'm going to have to do a little bit better. But that being said, about a 77%. So that's, I think that's like 96 out of the 125. Somebody can correct my math if I'm wrong there. See, 125, 77. Yeah, so 96. So it seems to me, even though they won't confirm this, that it's about a 77 is what you need to get. The reason I say that is because when you back into what your score is by adding up all the sections and doing a little math, I haven't seen anybody fail this exam that got higher than a 76. So I've seen some 76s fail, some 75s fail, but I haven't seen a 77 fail in a long time. So I think it's probably sitting right around 77% to pass this exam. So hopefully that helps. All right, anything else, Rachel?
No, that was it.
Okay, great question. Keep them coming. Okay, so I am now circling back to the question you asked, so thank you a few minutes ago. Where's my help? You do have help. That being said, let me start with a disclaimer, very important. This is online. It's meant to be distance. It's meant to be self-study. So you need to realize that going in. So if you're the type of person, there's nothing wrong with it, that says, I need somebody helping me. I may need somebody helping me through each of these 11 sections, core sections. I may have questions in all 11 sections. I need that interaction. I want that interaction with faculty. Then we are not a good fit. To be honest, I don't know that any program will, because I don't think anybody offers really fully that level of service in this program, but we're just not priced or built as an academic or degree program. So it is what it is. That being said, I've done this for a long time. Yes, I was the original person they brought in to spearhead the organization or the committee and all the task forces, yada, 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 and create the certification. So I kind of know where you're going to struggle. Well, let me rephrase that. I know where a lot of people are going to struggle in terms of the curriculum, understanding, especially regarding the exam. So I'm going to get ahead of that with extra study tips and sometimes videos, sometimes extra exercises and practice questions and all of that fun stuff. And so I can kind of get us through that, get you through that faster. But that being said, the discussion board is fabulous. And I've left it, every year we scrape it down a little bit and remove some of the redundancy, but I leave the best and most difficult and technical question exchanges up. Because if you're into Cuperts or grits or whatever, and you're like, this just doesn't make sense. I know Steve Siegel just explained it for the last 15 minutes in the video. And here's I'm already in the test prep as well. And so here's my practice question and my study slides for this, my study summaries. It's just not clicking for me. Okay, well, don't burn one of your 12 questions you've already seen. Now you get 12 lifelines, as we call them. Don't burn one yet. Go into discussion, go into that section, do a Control F search on your keyboard for GRATs or whatever you're struggling with, and see what the questions were. Because if it's a common question, it's probably going to be in there, and you'll see an exchange either with students between themselves where we reviewed it, it's accurate, it's helpful, or where any of us as faculty jumped in to help a participant, a candidate as well. So you want to do that first. Every single section's got lots of exchanges. So I think you go there first. And then if at that point you're like, okay, but it's still important to me in practice or on the test, you're going to want to reach out to us and use one of your 12 lifelines. Ross Richardson is the faculty member right now. I mean, it changes from time to time, but right now he's the faculty member that answers your questions and helps you guys when you get stuck. He'll do that with you through email for each of your 12 content questions. If you need to have a follow-up Zoom or something like that to kind of clean things up, he does those, I think, on Mondays and Thursday afternoons for this particular course. So you do have help. That being said, again, circling back to what I said before, this is really meant to be self-study. And so you're going to need to carry that yourself for the most part. We did beta test how many questions we should give because we knew we had limits from a financial standpoint. Less than 5% of our candidates, so it's more like close to half of that, but less than 5% of the questions even ask 12 questions in the program from a content standpoint. Now, there's no limit on questions like, I forgot the URL or my password, or how much time do I have left, or my videos aren't working because I'm on a new computer. That stuff you can ask as many as you want. Canvas is around 24/7 for that to help with the technical stuff. And then Yale and my staff is around Monday through Friday, 8 to 5 Eastern, to help you with the logistical things. Hey, I can't remember how to log in. It's been a few months, that kind of thing. Now, I did want to go back up because I do think I missed, running out of time here, but I did want to hit this real fast for you. So as I mentioned, you're going to do the education course first. There's 11 sections. There are tests after each one of those. You have to pass all 11 tests to complete the course, get your certificate from Yale, and then the test prep turns on for you, and IWI reaches out and says, congrats, Jim. Here's how you schedule your exam when you're ready. I recommend 40 hours. I mean, you could do it in 8, but do it in 40 hours. Don't rush through it. Really build your foundation before you get to the test prep. You're going to spend most of your time in test prep, right? We said 150 hours, maybe 110, maybe studying for the exam, 40 hours at the course level. Once you get to the exam, then it's all about the nitty gritty, the stuff that they test and the stuff they don't test on, the technical applications, stuff that it's just more detailed, it's more nuanced, and you're going to spend a lot of time there. I keep getting lost here. But anyway, I did want to draw that differentiation. 40 hours doing the course, and you're going to spend the rest of your time with us studying for the exam. As I mentioned, as we wrap up here, we take feedback really seriously. Now, we've been doing this about 7 years on CPWA now, and a lot of candidates. So we've got this down. But we're always looking to tweak where we can and make it better here and there. So we would appreciate your feedback. Once you get through not only the course, but take your test, pass or fail. And we're pretty happy with the pass rate and the feedback scores we have, especially that NPS of 82. I think that's pretty strong. If you don't know what that is, all your firms use it, but Google it and you'll see what that is. And you'll recognize the question, the survey question immediately. All right, the whole time we've just been trying to help you figure out, is this certification a good fit for you now? And is our program structure and expectations, are those a good fit for you? If you're ready for a challenge, this will be a challenge, even if you're an experienced advisor. But if you're ready for a challenge, yeah, we'd love to have you come join us at Yale, be part of Yale, and then you can use that the rest of your life. Now, there are certain restrictions on how you can use that affiliation, but you will have an affiliation with Yale, and we'd love to have you, but only if it's a good fit for you. All right, you're going to register through IWI, where you're going to apply through IWI on their CPWA homepage, and you're just going to do apply for candidacy. That's the little button that you press. You can go to our website, but we're just going to send you over to their website when it comes time to apply. And there's our contact information again, but I'll stop there because I do think we got just a couple of minutes here for final questions, Rachel, if we've got any.
Okay, yeah, we have 2 more questions. So one, could you just repeat what the passing score is again?
Yeah, passing score, not pass rate, but passing score is probably right around 77%. As in, you got to get 77% of the scored items. That's the 125, not the 135, which would be about 96 questions of the 125. You're going to need to get about 96 of those correct. You don't have to get passing sub scores, like you got to get the 96 questions right, and you've got to have a passing score in all 11 sections or the 5 domains. They don't do that. Some certifications do. This one does not. It's just overall, but right around 77%. Good question.
Okay, and then when and where can we find the sample study schedules?
Yeah, once you get into test prep, you'll be able to see the sample schedules. You don't need one for the education course. Why? Because it's 40 hours. And as you're going to get into it, you're going to say, oh, I could do this in less time. We got about 30 hours of lecture. So just like if you were in New Haven and we were all in the classroom together, it's just myself and the other professors and practitioners. We just went into the studio and recorded our lectures. And so you'll watch those, again, about 30 hours. And then you'll spend the rest of the time taking those 11 tests at the course level. Now, those 11 tests, you can take them as many times as you want. They're not proctored. They're just a way, since you're not there in person, we're not there in person together, just for us to assess that you've taken the course, you've gained some skills and knowledge, so that we can feel good about saying you passed this course and here's your Yale certificate. Good question.
Okay, that's it for questions.
Okay, well, I'll turn it back over to you, Rachel, but thanks everybody for joining us. I hope that was helpful. If you want a copy of that detailed content outline, the one with the testing weights on it and what have you, just go ahead and send me an email. Or if you have a question about like, Okay, that was helpful, but I still have a question on what, like, is this the right time or is this the right certification? Just reach out to me. We'll have a quick phone call and see if I can help you.
Okay, thank you so much, Jim. And thanks to all of you for joining us and for your questions. For more information, you can visit our website or reach out to us directly with any additional questions. This webinar, including the video recording and the slides, will be shared in the coming days. And while we hope to see you in our program, we truly hope that you find a program and a path that's the best fit for you. Thank you again for sharing your time with us. This concludes the webinar.
Bye.